And welcome back, everybody. Mike Rayford here. You are listening to In Search of the Good Life show. We're the show that is the antidote for the rest of the week, and you can check out all of our live broadcasts as well as all of our archive shows in the archives there at MikeTheWineGuy.com. Just check it out, MikeTheWineGuy.com. You can drop us an email there, Mike@MikeTheWineGuy.com, and also check out our Facebook page and all the other social media platforms out there. We are covering food, wine, travel, and lifestyle in no particular order. And today we've got sort of a focus on microbrews and the brewing scene up in Northern California, which if you've been up in the area or you're from this area, it's lots and lots of choices, lots and lots of creativity out there. And as with the wine industry, there's just each individual maker, in this case Brewmeister, is going to do their own signature, and that's what's so fun about it. And with us right now on the line, we've got Troy Paski, and he is with Hoppy Brewery, now the oldest brew pub in Sacramento. So welcome to the show, Troy.
Hi, thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks for joining us today. I am so interested to know, the people's story, and folks that listen a lot always ask me, it's great that this guy has a brew company, but what did he do before? I understand that you were sort of in the Silicon Valley groove there for a while, working on satellites and the like. So how did you go from that rocket scientist into becoming a brewmeister?
Oh, well, yeah, and being a guy
so
with
we
a
got
physics degree,
15 minutes or so, so I'm going to try to get this one last segment
all
done.
Exciting, I guess.
We may have to just
you would think.
keep an eye.
I like
brought this
good
stick.
food, I like good beer, I like good wine, and being in Silicon Valley, I had access to a lot of that stuff. And somebody one of my friends gave me a homebrew kit for Christmas in December of '91. Thought I would make some beer.
Because this next one I've got is...
So I didn't know how to make beer, and I set out to started making beer, and before you know it, there were people coming over my place, drinking it, and telling me to enter some contests. So I reluctantly did, and I won some awards, and people were telling me I should open a brew pub, and I said, well, I'm just a lowly engineer, and I don't have any money to open a brew pub, and before you know it, I had some friends and family, and I was out rounding up some investor money, and lo and behold, we got our beer out on the market in July of 1994, and 5 years later, we opened a brew pub here in Sacramento.
Nice. Well, you were sort of at the right time to sort of. There was a lot of money flying around the valley back in the 95 to 99 sort of time, right?
There's a lot more flying around now than there was then.
Yeah, that's true, huh? I guess you just have to have a little bit more thought put behind your .com. Not that you were in that business, but at least there was money flying around there. So very cool. Well, now, so what was your first experience? I mean, your first try at making beer? I mean, did you just hit a home run right out of the box?
No, I visited a homebrew shop, and I would go in and smell and taste hops, and I would smell and taste various grains, and I would talk to the guy that was at his name was Paul, and I would talk to him behind the counter about this beer and that beer and what made sense. And I kind of made a cross between what was a Bass Ale and a Sierra Nevada at the time. And it's what's evolved into our flagship product, the Hoppy Face Amber Ale. It's been around on the market now for almost 25 years now.
Wow.
And it still it's one of our best sellers, and people love it and people hate it. But some people find it's not hoppy enough for them. But you know what? People still keep drinking it.
Right. Well, it's funny. We each have our own tastes and so forth. And what I find interesting is how things evolve. So, as an example, when you first got going, beer, for the most part, other than a few imports, was pretty homogenous. I mean, an American beer was sort of just an American beer, right? But then all these different flavors started coming on, and I guess hops was the big one at the time. When did you sort of discover what I would call, or what you might think of as mouthfeel, or just the different texture? Because that's one of the components that people look for in a beer.
Yeah. I think it was, I was drinking a Bass Ale. I mean, when I was, lo and behold, I was in Georgia, so it was 18 was the drinking age in the state, but versus California was 21. I was drinking imported beer for a while. I was drinking Sam Adams when it first came out. I think the one that most real beer geeks, including myself, not being a true beer geek, but one that can appreciate it, was the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I think that was a beer that transcended a whole level of. This was a beer that changed my course in life pretty much.
Right. Yeah, Sierra Nevada was one. I remember when Anchor had been around for a while, and I discovered Anchor back in probably the early 80s or something like that, and it seemed to be distinctive and stand out on its own as well.
Right.
And so over the course of the years as making beer, you just sort of get a whim and you just sort of go in a different flavor direction, or do you guys have what you think of as a signature flavor?
Well, we don't make any beer to one style per se. We make beer based upon color profile and drinkability. Our four main brands that we have are the Liquid Sunshine Blonde Ale, which got a little wheat in it, a little rye in it. It's really light, really dry. It's got a little grapefruit essence to it from the hop. It's a very summertime drinkable beer. Our flagship Hoppy Face Amber's got a lot of malt, a lot of hop character. It's big and robust. And then we've got our Total Eclipse, which is basically the forerunner to a black IPA. It's won several awards in the robust porter category. But it's really got too much hop character to be in that category, such is why now there's a black IPA category. And then we've got a red ale, which is a red malty, very smooth beer, and totally the antithesis of the blonde amber and the black hoppy beer. So we just make beer that people like to drink.
Well, that makes sense, and it sounds like you've got quite a wide spectrum as well. Now, I noticed that initially you did something with blueberries. Was that just on one of your first runs? I mean, or do you still, I guess seasonality might have something to do with it too, but do you try to trend along certain lines when things are, let's say, ripening, that you might use those in some of your beers?
We did that early on, partly because the newness of the Kings had just become a sensation to watch, and there was this guy named John Barry on the team.
Okay.
And so we just made this John Barry ale with blueberries.
I love it.
And kind of featured because it kind of turned purple in the glass, so it was kind of an homage to the Kings and their success.
Right. That's very cool. I love it. That's great. Well, listen, I want to come back. We got to take a short break right now, but when we come back on the other side, I want to sort of dig into what your thoughts are as far as the trends in beer are at the moment and where they might be going. So stick around. We're talking with Troy from the Hoppy Brewing Company, and we will be right back. I'm Mike Rayford. You're listening to The Good Life Show. Stick around. We'll be right back. To In Search of the Good Life Show. We're here every weekend, and we're here 7 days a week online if you want to catch the show at MikeTheWineGuy.com. We are on the phone right now talking with Troy, and he is Troy Paski. He's the owner and founder of Hoppy Brewery, and they're currently now the oldest brew company in Sacramento. I don't know why so many breweries end up in this area, Troy, but it seems like every year there's more and more. How many breweries and microbrews are what we'd call in our vicinity, if you will, of Sacramento? I know you guys have a big brew festival every year, and it seems like there's 40 or 50.
Last count there were 66. I've heard 72. That number is like a weed that just keeps changing every morning, so I don't know anymore.
Well, you beat me. I thought it was around 50 or so, and you're already 60 or 70. Wow, that's amazing. Why do you think it's so popular up here? Is it just our lifestyle? Is it our climate? Is it a combo? What do you think?
I think it has a lot to do with everything. There's also an underserved market. Plus, the Sacramento region is very expansive as far as we're in a bathtub between the foothills and the coastal range. There's just a lot of territory to cover, and I think there's just a lot of diversity in each little region that you visit. So I think there's an opportunity for a lot of different breweries that can focus on making beer locally and successfully without trying to be the next Sierra Nevada.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's everybody's bar they're trying to get to. Or I don't know if you know this person, Sarah Johnson. I interviewed her a couple of years ago. Sunset Magazine does a big thing out in Sonoma called the Spring Festival. And she was out there. She's a Cicerone at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. She's a young up-and-comer, but I tell you, she's the F&B manager out there. And for somebody that's probably in her late 20s, early 30s, it's pretty impressive to meet her. But she is a beer expert and a brewing expert. And so she started a festival that you guys might have even participated in out there. It's an annual thing that all the brew guys are and girls are invited to. But we started talking about making beer during the interview, and I accidentally said something that kind of got her all riled up. Maybe you might have a similar reaction. I was telling her that with wine, you've got all these variables. You've got different climates, you've got different growing regions, you've got different sugar content and various types of yeast and all these variables that make wine a complex thing to make. I said something like, unlike beer, which seems to be pretty simple, it's only got 4 ingredients. And she backed me up real quick and let me know that beer is very complicated to make and that you can go in so many different directions. What do you have to say about that?
I tend to agree with her. I mean, beer, in all reality is it's like a 4-string guitar and not a 6-string. You've got 4 basic ingredients, but you can come up with an infinite number of notes to choreograph and put together a song with. You look at the different varieties of yeast, look at the different just content makeup of the water that you use, and then you've got a plethora of hops grown in different regions in the same way with the malt. It may be on the surface 4 simple ingredients, but they all have a lot of different nuances that combine to make a very complex drink.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we were talking about was all the different infusions that you can add to beer now. And I know we were talking earlier about seasonality. I know there's Christmas brews that have different flavors in them and so forth. But she mentioned that talking about different fruits, you can throw blueberries or peaches or whatever in there. And she was mentioning that somebody's doing an oyster brew, and I thought, you mean you put the oysters in there? And she goes, yep. And so I guess whatever you put into that yeast, it starts eating it up, and it just infuses in there. Is that kind of how it works?
It's a little bit. You can put a lot of things in that the brew kettle and get certain nuances out of it. I've had an oyster stout before. It's not one of my favorite styles, but to each their own.
Sure. So where do you see the trend going now? You guys have obviously you have a brewery and a tasting room. How many tasting rooms do you have available do you have any plans for the future?
Well, we're currently working on opening our new community tap house in Old Sacramento called the Rail Yard Kitchen and Hop Garden. And we should be opening that in the middle of July. And we're looking to feature not just our beers, but also some brewers from the immediate local Sacramento area that want to participate in being part of our community tap house.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. What a great location, man. Now that the big stadium's down there, that's just going to be a hit.
It's just a 5-minute walk from the Golden One Center. Old Sacramento is full of tourists. I think it will be a good front door for tourists to sample the wares that Sacramento has from the standpoint of local breweries. And we're really excited about seeing how that turns out with the not only the tourists, but with the local beer followers here in town.
For sure. Well, I'm definitely going to come and try that out. I mean, I love the location anyway, but to be able to, and it's really, I don't know, I suppose it's partly generosity on your part, but it's also just the desire to let other people in your same, industry kind of shine a light on them a little bit and have an opportunity for the consumers to try a multitude. I love the idea that the tasting room has multiple breweries available in there.
I think the community tap house, that concept, I think helps. Gives exposure to Sacramento in more than a way just us being hoppy.
Right.
And not that I want to have 24 beers on tap of our own, but at the same time, I think it adds more a competitive challenge to our brewers to experience other breweries' beer and different styles, and makes things fresh and diverse for the customer as well.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. I do a lot of wine tastings, but one of the most fun ones I put together was where we had a bunch of local wines and wineries that represented. And what we did is we kind of had a consumer wine award. And, at the end of the day, we're really just trying to please our customer. And if you put 3 beers in front of people and they don't know what they're drinking, and you just say, tell me which one you like the most, and then you just get a vote on it. It's a fun sort of competition within the brew community, but it sort of gets people involved and gets them trying things that they might not normally try as well.
Right. Or they may not want to drive out to some other brewery someplace. So So this is where I think it adds value to the local brewing scene.
Exactly. Well, listen, we're running out of time, but I want to thank you for joining us today on the show. Look forward to having a beer with you. You're opening up again on the 16th in Old Town. Whereabouts in Old Town are you located?
It's 1022 2nd Street. It's right as you come out of the tunnel. It's just on the north side of K Street, per se. It's K and 2nd Street.
Right on. We'll look forward to seeing you out there, and people can always find you on your website. Remind us of what that one is again.
It's hoppy.com.
That's pretty easy to remember, hoppy.com. All right, Troy Paski, owner of hoppy.com, Hoppy Brewing Company.
Thanks,
really appreciate it, man. We'll see you down there soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, stick around. We've got a lot more of The Good Life coming up. I'm Mike Rayford. Stick around. We've got a lot more of The Good Life coming up. I'm Mike Rayford. Stick around. We've got a lot more of The Good Life.